This is the BlockHash Podcast.
How are you, man?
Doing well. Are you on the East Coast?
Yes, I am. It's horrid weather today.
Oh, yeah. It's probably raining over there, huh?
You are right. It's cold. It's wet. It's a horrible Friday.
Oh my goodness. I can't imagine. Well, if it makes you feel any better, it's bright and sunny out here in Oregon.
Thanks. You guys have you guys the weather at your end is probably a lot better, right? In general.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the time of year. We get a lot of seasons. So, in the winter months, we get a lot of snow, and then we've got a ton of snow up until about March, and now it's starting to actually turn into spring for the first time. So it's really green right now. It's starting to warm up. It's like 70, 75. It'll probably get warmer as the summer goes on, and it's a very outdoorsy place.
Yeah, I've never been there before.
Oh, you probably like it.
Yeah.
Your profile said you were a casual runner.
Yeah. I was in I was living in New York for 2 years, and we moved back last October, and I kind of missed the four seasons, because Singapore there's only two kinds of weather, which is hot, and humid.
Yeah, that sounds like one
Yeah.
season. Yeah, so do you kind of like work remotely back from home?
Yeah. So basically, I moved back, and I think we're going to cover that during the podcast as well. But basically, I moved back because of Pundi X, from New York. So I was in New York for work, and I moved to New York for work, and I moved back to Singapore for work as well. Yeah. So it's been quite a journey.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great that you kind of get to work kind of back home a little bit and spend some time with
Yeah.
family and
Have
kind of be in an environment that has seasons.
Have you always been in Oregon, or where do you come from previously?
I grew up in Oregon, so I'm very familiar with the state in general. And I also spent a lot of time down in Nevada, in Las Vegas.
Mm.
And they don't have a lot of seasons in Vegas. It's mostly just hot, dry heat. It's a desert.
Did you manage to go to
And
the
I went,
CES as well?
yeah, I go every single year.
Great.
I believe I swung by your guys' booth as well when I was at the Sands Hotel.
Yeah,
It was very brief. I can't
it
remember.
was so hectic. 4 days. I overslept the last day by 6 hours because I was so tired. Yeah, it was.
Oh, I
it-
bet.
it's-
It just bombards you. There's so many people there.
yeah, but it's an amazing experience, man.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Super hard to like try and see everything, and there's just so much going on. It's like overwhelming.
Yeah.
So as an attendee, like it's a lot, but I can only imagine for like setting up a booth for a couple days and having to run that. So
Yeah, it's pretty intense
yeah,
because you keep
that's
saying the same things to different people. I mean, tend to adjust as well. But after the end of the year, you're swamped. Like your brain is like out. Yeah. But it's a great
right.
experience.
CES is in oh yeah, definitely. CES is in Beijing, I think too. Are you guys attending that one or just the one in
In
Vegas?
Shanghai, so we've been invited as like a speaker or presenter, you can call it. So we are going there just to share our solution, but we don't have a booth because it's not really relevant for us. We'll be back likely next year in Vegas as well. So we probably can have a catch up then as well. I mean, have coffee, have a meal when we are there next year.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I got caught up talking mostly at the Ledger booth because I know last year they were in the Sands Hotel and they had a really small booth, and then they moved into one of the bigger areas and they had this giant display and everything. And I was talking to some of their team about Ledger Vault and have been in contact with them for a
Yeah.
while.
They have a giant
Going
booth
over
this
some
year.
stuff.
Yeah,
Massive booth.
but they have a push. I think they've been doing well, and they were launching a new product as well. So I think it makes sense for them.
Yeah, they launched the Nano X, the Bluetooth one for your phone that you can
Yeah,
take with you.
yeah.
It's really cool.
Do you get one for yourself?
I have not yet. I last time I checked, I knew that they were back ordered and had a lot of orders, so I was just gonna wait a couple months because I already have the Nano
Yeah.
S. I actually have a couple of them, and they work great. So I don't really see the point in getting the X just yet. So I'm kind of just holding off. But it is really cool. Like I like the part that is Bluetooth and you can use it with your phone and
Yeah,
all that.
yeah. They make it really easy.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get NPXS on Ledger at some point too.
Yeah, but I
That'd be
mean,
interesting.
in general, you can access that. How we use it is, or some people use it is with the Nano Ledger is through my Ether wallet, or
Oh, that's
mycrypto.com.
right.
Yeah,
It's still on the Ethereum blockchain,
it
correct?
is. It is still on.
Okay, so you can got it.
Yeah, and then you can move it once we move it on mainnet. I think that's closer to the end of the year or early next year as well. Uh, but yeah, so for now it's still on a ERC20. You can use your Nano
Mhm.
Ledger. You can use the X wallet as well. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I almost forgot. I thought you guys went on the mainnet last year, but I'm probably just way out of the loop on that.
Yeah, yeah. So,
That's Function X, correct?
that's correct. That's correct. So how long have you been in this space already?
In terms of just blockchain in general,
Yeah, yeah,
I've been aware of it since I was early in college, since Bitcoin had a huge run up in 2013. And then when I graduated college with my neuroscience degree, I was heavily invested with Ethereum
yeah,
at the same time and got to experience Ethereum take off and go through its ICO boom and bust. And that really kind of propelled me into the industry.
yeah.
And then I got really fascinated with it and decided to pivot away from potentially going to medical school and
Mm,
going into this sector because I just thought it had so much more upside. I thought there was a lot of opportunity, and there is, and it's such a big space, and there's so much room for
yeah.
change in the global economy in terms of what you can do with blockchain tech broadly. So I wanted to start a
Mm,
business, a consulting business. I wanted to do something educational, started a podcast,
yeah.
a I'm an author of a book as well. Wrote a book called The Satoshi Sequence.
Mm.
I'll definitely send you a copy.
Yeah, I'd love to read about it.
Yeah, I think you'd love it. But yeah, basically just kind of dove headfirst into it as soon as I got out of college. And so I've been like really focused on it the last few years and then have been aware of it for probably like 5, 6 years in total. But I'm pretty familiar with the space. I'm in it every single day.
Yeah, and I didn't realize you have a neuroscience degree as well. Wow. I guess in what we do, in some ways, it's also pretty. You can compare to that. It's kind of like brain surgery as well in some cases, right? Blockchain, you know, some
Mhm.
parts are so complex to think about. Some parts are so complex to understand as well. Yeah,
Social complexity,
yeah.
yeah.
It's.
Yeah, there's an interesting market psychology behind crypto in general and with blockchain,
Yeah,
in the way that the markets move, and the way that people not only see crypto as technology, but how they see it as a currency, how they see it in some ways as a store of wealth, like with Bitcoin, and how they compare it to gold,
yeah,
how they see it as a symbol, as symbolic in a lot of ways of individuality, symbolic of individual sovereignty. And yeah, so there's a lot of things that you could probably
it
study
is.
from a neuroscience or
Yeah,
psychology
and
background.
then it's pretty amazing how this movement has started, right? You can call it like I would see it as a movement, you know, and a movement so strong that it's not going to go away, regardless of all the headlines you see in the media. Whether is it a fake, is it a scam, is it a fad, But I think it is a movement, right? And I think more and more people are aware, more and more institutions are getting aware of that this is something you cannot ignore. And I mean, we all read the news as well. We're beginning to see more and more companies are getting deeply involved, rather than just push away as this is just another trend. But it's a fascinating space. Yeah, I guess that's why we're all in it.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think we're all in it for the same reason. I think we all see the opportunity and kind of where it's going. And um and all the different niche spaces that you can get into. And like with Pundi, for example, getting into being able to help
Mm.
retailers accept crypto and giving customers the option to pay with crypto and transact. And by the way, the XPOS device is awesome too. I've had one for a little
Yeah.
while. It's very, very um, simple to use, very, very straightforward. I remember when I was first looking at it, I was really skeptical because I've seen all the videos and
Yeah.
everything, and I've seen you guys online. And unfortunately, there's so many different crypto projects out there
Yeah.
that aren't very honest
Yeah.
necessarily. So it's hard to get an idea of what in the market is a legitimate project, is a legitimate device, or a legitimate team. So actually getting to see that for the first time was incredible. It was really straightforward. I mean, it works like an Android phone and easy to update and easy to
Yeah.
use. And yeah, I was
And we
very,
saw
very
your video
impressed.
as well. The really cool video you produced when you first have it. Uh,
Ah,
that
yeah,
was
that
that
one.
was that was awesome.
Yeah. I think when I did that video, I didn't have a theme for it. I just kind of I thought it'd be cool to do something. Yeah, I didn't know what I was going to title it. I didn't know what it was going to be about at first. I just wanted to do something that was kind of like a first person, almost like an action video for crypto where you're doing something. So I kind of just put a whole bunch of clips together, and then I was like, well, I actually have the XPOS. I should include this in it, and kind of threw that in, and that kind of made the video at the end and made it pretty cool. And then decided to title it that because I had recently got it when I went down to Colombia.
Mm.
So I don't know, all those things kind of put together
Yeah.
made a lot of sense and
Yeah, I
came
can
out
tell the
really well.
energy as well in the video, all the excitement. So, yeah, it's a good one. So,
Yeah.
how do I'm just curious, and I ask this whenever I meet someone as well who knows about our product. How do you find out about us? Was it through one of the websites or coverage, or how do you learn about us?
So actually the first time that I heard about you guys, I was talking to a friend of mine that lives in Cambodia, and
Mm,
he was telling me that he started investing in this crypto project called Pundi X. He started explaining what
yeah,
NPXS was, and he was really excited about the whole token
yeah,
unlock program and how he was getting like 11
yeah,
something percent every single month
seven
at the
percent, I
time.
think. Yeah, at the time,
Um,
7. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, 7? 7? Okay, yeah, he was getting something like every single month for it, and he was pretty excited, and he said that he liked the team, highly recommended it, and I think I didn't check it out initially. I kinda just put it on the back burner of things to do, and then eventually when I got around to it, checked out the website, and I was like, "Oh, okay, so they're getting into, like, retail, and they got this XPOS device, and they wanna make it really seamless and easy." And I had seen some similar things around, and at the time, I was, like, using
Mm,
BitPay a lot. So I was kind of familiar with that whole concept of being able to transact with crypto in a retail perspective with a merchant. So I was kind of interested in it, but I wasn't sure
yeah.
how legitimate it was. I mean, the website was really cool. All the videos were really good and everything. It's just unfortunate because there's so many crypto projects that have been out there that have done similar stuff in terms of making it
Mm,
look presentable and then it actually turning
mm,
out to be a scam. So I was really worried about
yeah,
jumping into it at first, but as more documentation came out, as more people started talking about it, and when I went down to Colombia and I was hanging out with Manticore, I saw that they had some XPOS devices. And when I tried it for the first time, I was
yeah,
really surprised. That's what initially hooked me on it. But I've known about you guys
yeah.
for a little while.
You've been around, right? From friends in Cambodia, and then you actually go to Colombia to get this device when it first kicked off in that market. Just good travel.
Yeah, I haven't traveled to Cambodia
Yeah,
yet. It is
yeah.
on my list, but I spent the last year and a half traveling quite a bit, especially in
Hmm.
Latin America, just because it looks like crypto adoption down there is
Yeah.
really high. Every time I talk to someone, whether I'm in Buenos Aires, I'm in Florianopolis, Brazil, when I'm in Medellin, Colombia, or if I'm in Panama, everybody's just like super into crypto. There's so many issues with politics and their economies
Yeah.
down there. A lot of tyrannical rule, a lot of governments that just don't cooperate, and citizens that don't have as many rights as you would have up in the United States, for a lot of reasons. And so they're very drawn to crypto. They're very drawn to the idea of individuality and individual sovereignty and being able to control their money. And then there's the issues with Venezuela, obviously. So there's a lot of people that have been really happy to be able to buy Bitcoin and then leave the country and then
Yeah.
start a new life.
Yeah.
So it's a big, big deal down there. So I spent a lot of time once I jumped into blockchain down there, Latin America, educating myself, boots on the ground perspective, how it's changing lives, and then how it's having a real world impact. And that's kind of really rounded out how I can bring education into the space and how I can better understand it and everything it's doing. So, I mean, that's part of the
Yeah.
travel.
Are you going back there anytime soon in Latin America?
I don't have any plans as of today, but I would like to go back to Colombia because I have a lot of friends there, and I'm fairly good friends with Manacora as well. I know they want to work on some other projects at some point. So I definitely want to go back there. And then I need to go to Chile to check out Fort Galt. My friend Gabriel Shear, he was actually on the podcast a few weeks ago. He's got a whole entrepreneur education type, libertarian type community that he's building down in Chile. It's super, super cool.
It's I heard about Chile and I mean basically the city of Santiago as well, where they're quite tech friendly and tech forward as well.
Well, when I was talking to him, he was telling me more so that it on paper, yeah, they have a lot of like entrepreneurship stuff. They have like an entrepreneurship visa, a lot of startup programs. They have one called Startup Chile, but a lot of these programs, unfortunately, that they start up, they're tailored to very small groups of individuals because the programs aren't very good. You don't get follow through in the programs. You don't always get the funding that they say you'll get. It's not as organized. It's kind of set up so that someone in government down there, someone in their politics can kind of take advantage of the system. So there's some issues on legitimate tech programs not going on down there and stuff. But in terms of like industry, yeah, there's a lot of tech startups and there's a lot of tech companies that are looking to move there because there are some favorable laws. And in anywhere in Latin America, for the most part right now, it's so wide open in terms of blockchain, and they really haven't decided to crack down on it. A lot of the people want to use it. So it's a good hotbed for
like you
testing
said,
that
because
stuff
of
out.
economic conditions, it makes it one of the more favorable location, or it's prime for other payment methods, other payment instruments as well. So it's interesting you're talking about Latin America. So for us at Pundi X, Latin America represents a key region for us. So I'm not sure if you're aware, we do have a team in Sao Paulo. That's our Latin America or LATAM HQ. And from there, we work with various partners and distribution partners as well across the different markets to grow our presence. So, for example, in Colombia, like mentioned, we have a partner there as well. Argentina, we have a partner in place as well, doing a little pilot. In Sao Paulo itself, where our team is located, so currently we're expanding our merchants. So there are new stands in Sao Paulo. So if you're there, you can actually go in. If you don't have an X wallet, you can get an XPOS card from the newsstands, and you can buy any form of, let's say you want to buy Bitcoin, you can. You buy NPXS, you can as well from the newsstand itself. And then you can start to transact if you want to. You can buy a chocolate bar, you can buy some snacks, you can buy some drinks on a newsstands, which is pretty interesting. So we make it really accessible right down to the newsstands. And it's interesting you talk about Venezuela. I was there for a market visit actually in January. I was there for about a week to look at opportunities and to look at how to really understand, because what the media reports sometimes is skewed, right? It's a bit different. So I want to get a reality sense check. And it's fascinating. The hyperinflation is it's I would call it it's rather crazy because when I was there, I believe it was only the third week of January, and from the beginning of the year, Jan 1st, to the third week of January, the rate of inflation was already 400%. And someone was showing me a stack of, let's say, a stack of bills in your hand, like a brick, a thick as thick as a brick. That's like 7 USD. So
Right.
obviously, it makes it a lot harder for the day-to-day people to transact, to go about their stuff, because they can't really carry bags of cash. It doesn't make sense. In terms of payment wise,
Hmm.
because they have to use, let's say, credit cards to transact, the issue they have is the rate of hyperinflation is so fast, and the bank limits doesn't really catch up as quickly as the inflation. So oftentimes, the local citizens tend to max out their credit card limit or bank limits pretty quickly. So what they had to do is they either rely on multiple credit cards, or even the right down to sometimes to really choose the more affordable or cheaper items, not because they cannot afford it, but because there is a limit to the cards they can spend. So it really forces some kind of it really poses a challenge to your day-to-day life that we take it for granted as well.
Oh yeah, totally. And especially when they're going through hyperinflation like that. I think a
Yeah,
lot of first world countries don't really realize that. We lived in quite a
yeah,
bubble for a long time. That's that's really interesting. Um, I know that Maduro is not going to be in power for much longer. Eventually, pretty soon there's going to be some change there. It's not going to continue. I know a lot of people are pretty fed up with it, obviously, for a lot of reasons, and it sounds awful. And from the refugees, they're terrified and they're
yeah,
happy to just be out of there. Their economy is going to need a lot of infrastructure rebuilt in terms of
yeah.
their capital markets and whatnot. Is that something that you think Pundi X is considered economy? You think Pundi X is considered jumping into once things start to stabilize? It seems like a good fit.
Yeah, so I'm not going to comment on the government, but we do are in touch with our local partners to facilitate whatever we can do as well. So we're trying to get some stuff going on. But at the same time, like you mentioned, the most important thing, other than the instability right now, is basically the infrastructure. Because I think, if you follow, they have some outages, like the lack of electricity, and it's partly because of infrastructure. And I know it's going to take some time to fix because it is an infrastructure issue. You can't just turn it off and turn it on again. But yeah, we're definitely closely monitoring as well to see what we can get it off running. It is,
Mhm.
as a region itself, any market that has experienced hyperinflation, it is represents a opportunity for us and also for other blockchain companies, because in these markets, they don't really have legacy or so-called current infrastructure in place that you need to replace, right? For example, in the US, the credit card system, the credit score system as well is so deeply entrenched, right? It's very difficult to immediately pivot to something else. Whereas if you look at other leapfrog markets like Africa, even look at China as well, they sort of skip the credit card phase and jump straight into using mobile payment, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
that's why I think in those markets, especially with facing some challenges, those are big opportunities, and that explains why the Latin American market is a key region for us. And that's why we're looking at these markets. I mean, Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, and also monitoring Venezuela to pan it out how they are. But yeah, we are trying to do some little things, some pilots. And the XPOS itself. So the XPOS device itself, we look at it at the end of the day, it is a digital currency neutral device, right? But of course, we
Mhm.
started off as in it's a crypto machine to push crypto mass adoption as well. Yes, that is possible, but at the same time, depending on the use case, it is flexible enough to pivot or to adapt. So, for example, we just recently announced a partnership in Cambodia, uh, where this company called Limestone Network. They are a real estate company, and they're looking to build a smart city in Phnom Penh. Yeah, and so it's very interesting. They want to use blockchain tech to create really a smart city.
Ah, interesting.
And of course, in using blockchain as well, they want to use promote, like, let's say, for example, cashless payment, and also really digitize the sort of entire city. Yeah, so this is something they have just started. Of course, they haven't really get the infrastructure and the buildings in place. They're building the apartments right now, but we're going to get something started pretty soon as a small pilot, as an initial phase as well. So what we're going to do is to work with them and to test out how they want to implement uh, promoting a cashless payment using the XPOS in, let's say, in that vicinity. um, and that's really interesting for us. And for example, in Dubai, which I think most people have already heard of that, where we're trying to work with a local partner over there, where they have plans where the local government is looking to tokenize their national currency and put it on a blockchain. And our solution is prime for that, right? It facilitate that. If you look at it, and at the end of the day, when I say why is digital currency neutral, is in addition to any of the cryptocurrency you have right now, you can create your own custom tokens, or you can back by let's say a stable coin as well, or you can use it as an enterprise solution where instead of you have loyalty points. So the XPOS is
Mhm.
also pretty flexible. Has a solution where to allow you to easily liquidate your loyalty points. So you can put your loyalty points on the blockchain. You can call it points, you can call it token, you can call it coin. But at the end of the day, it's like, for example, Starbucks points or loyalty points. You can use the XPOS solution to provide a way to facilitate transactions with that. Yeah, so it's really flexible, and depending on the use case, we sort of adapt and deliver and implement. So those are a few things we're looking to do, but it's really exciting stuff. And I think we spent last year trying to look at executing different strategies, and this year is a little bit more about focus as well. And I think one thing that I think most people don't realize is um, when we were creating the XPOS, because it's a hardware, right? In order to deliver and implement the hardware in different markets, some markets have stricter regulations, not just in a view of cryptocurrency, but also in terms of the hardware itself. So we spend some time trying to get the benchmark and the regulation in place. And recently, we just obtained the CE certificate. So, CE certificate means that the device, in a way, fulfill the required benchmark for a device to be in that country to operate safely, for example. And those are standard requirements. For example, in Europe, in order for a hardware to be sold, to be delivered, to be used. Yeah, so it is a process. We are all learning, but I'm glad to say with all these certifications, we are able to this year we are able to accelerate a little bit faster now, and launch this device in across the markets as well. Yeah, but it's been a challenging, but really productive in a way as well. Um, and I know in one of your questions you were asking what are the specific strategy you implement. So it really depends on the market requirements. In Latin America, because of the landscape, the people are more open to buy and also to transact in Bitcoin, and the XPOS represents a really easy way to access. And we'll be beginning to see some uptake in people going to the newsstands and buying just Bitcoin as a trial, or buying Bitcoin as a investments as well, or just buying Bitcoin to just spend and try it out. But it's really easy, and we're really excited about that actually.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's so much that you guys are doing with the XPOS alone. I know you guys got other products, but I mean, it's super awesome. And I think the other thing I like about the XPOS is it's mobile, right? You can put a SIM card in it.
Yes, that's correct. You can either use a SIM card, or I mean, you can tap on the Wi-Fi. But that's what we offer. We want to make sure that it's very easy to use, very easy to operate as well. I mean, you have one yourself, so you can see that the
Hmm.
solution itself is very elegant. And what I like about the product, and I think we are fortunate enough to have a physical product as well, because I think we are actually one of the few blockchain companies with an actual physical product you can touch. I think most of them are software focused, something you can't really see. Um, so whenever I demonstrate the XPOS solution, I always get a reaction, because only by demonstrating you can see that how easy and how elegant the solution is, right? It's just basically tap and go, you know, either with the X Plus card or the X wallet. Yeah, that's how we do it. We want to make it really accessible. We'll make it really easy to use. And when you try it, you can see the experience. It's there to see for yourself.
Yeah, it works very similar to an Android phone. It's got a really good user interface. I was able to, I mean, obviously there's not too much stuff on it yet, but I mean, it's still really easy to navigate and it wasn't slow. I didn't have any issues necessarily signing up with it and getting it to the point where I could accept some NPXS or some Bitcoin or Ethereum. It was pretty simple. The back office was fairly simple too. So it's for something that's pretty brand new. It's pretty good,
Yeah,
honestly.
thank you. So what do you currently do with your Xbox?
Well, I actually like the mobile aspect of it. What's interesting is um, my iPhone has mobile hotspot,
Mm-hmm.
so I can turn that on and create a mobile
Yep.
hotspot when I need Wi-Fi anywhere. So I thought that that would be interesting to try with the
Yeah.
XPOS instead of going to get a SIM card, and it
Yeah. It
works.
does.
Works really well. So I put on my iPhone hotspot when I'm mobile, when I have my XPOS with me, and then I can get internet to it. And then if I'm at an airport, or if I'm at a college, or if I'm with a group of people or some investors that I'm with, or just any of my friends, and I have it with me and I want to show them and I don't have access to internet, it's really, really handy to have that feature that it makes it mobile, being able to use a SIM card, being able to use an internet connection with my phone. So I will every once in a while I'll use it in business. Someone will want to pay me and I'll be like, hey, do you want to pay me on my Pundi XPOS
Yeah.
device? And most people have no idea what I'm talking about until I pull it
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
because they haven't really seen
Yep.
it, the general public yet. But as soon as I pull it out, they're like fascinated, like, ooh, whoa, what is that? And I'm like, this is the
Yeah.
XPOS. Super easy to accept crypto. It's mobile. It literally feels like a phone when I'm using it. So and it's fairly portable too. Like even with the box, I can put it in my backpack and it's not an issue, and I can take it with me places.
Yeah.
But for the most part, because it's so early, I use it as a demo
Yeah.
when I'm trying to educate someone, or when I'm talking to a coffee shop, or in one case right now, a med spa that might be interested in using the XPOS at some point. I'll pull it out usually as a demo, and I have the XPass card preloaded, and I'll run them
Yeah.
through some transactions, show them how it works and everything, and kind of explain why I like it, why it's great for me, and how it kind of helps me because I'm so mobile all the time. The fact that I'm traveling makes this really easy. And I can put it in my backpack, take it on the plane, and have no issues. So it's I really like the mobile aspect,
Yeah.
obviously, and mostly I use it for demos for the most part. But I mean, if people wanted to pay me more in crypto, I'd use it
Yeah.
more. We're just at a point where we have little adoption still in the U.S. Not a lot of people use it yet.
Yeah. I think in the
Um,
US, people are more into buying and procuring as an investment or
Hmm.
speculative vehicle rather than using it in daily transactions. Yeah, but I think has more part of that is accessibility as well, and also with regulations. I mean, for example, in New York, I see more and more companies are being granted a bit license as well. And I'm
Hmm.
sure once the bigger players open up acceptance, probably it will go up because I think it's a chicken and egg, right? You need places to spend your cryptocurrency if you want to. You also need people to be able to do that as well. So once you have both sides on uptick, I think that will help. But I think you have to start somewhere. So I think if you start with getting more places to buy, that will eventually tip the scale.
Right. It'll be something for a while that's word of mouth until people like legitimately start advertising these products and services. I mean, it's just so early. I mean, with Ethereum, you have a bunch of dApps out there, but you don't have dApps with real use cases. Yet dApps will have a profound effect on our economy. Pundi X is just another niche in blockchain that's really early, but it's really useful. It's just not at a point of adoption yet for it to really have an effect. And I think New York is the only state in the US that has form of approval in terms of the bit
Mm,
license for exchanges and whatnot. I think Bittrex even got denied, which is kind of funny because they're a pretty good exchange. I use
yeah.
them all the time. And then I know there are a number of states that are working pretty diligently on getting something done. I know Wyoming's very on top of it. I know Arizona and California, or not California, excuse me, Arizona and Nevada are pushing quite a bit for some legislation. Um, I know Ohio and Florida are pushing the Token Taxonomy Act through Congress right now, trying to get some legislation done. It's bipartisan. Um, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's really early, and when you don't have anything legal that's out there, it scares a lot of people away. And the only people that buy into it are the speculators or
Mm,
the high risk investors. And so it's one of those spaces that's it's growing tremendously. But in terms of at least in the U.S., people using it, I think a lot of people are uneducated on what you can do with blockchain still. I know a lot of people have heard of Bitcoin, but most people don't understand
mm,
everything else you can do with it. And there's just no regulations and laws around it. So it's creating quite a barrier to entry for a lot of these projects to get to a potential customer, to get to a potential investor or business that wants to use it or institution. But it'll come in time. It's just
yeah.
very, very
I
early
mean
right now.
that's why I think as a industry, we're all pushing, right? You can't just have one company pushing as well. So I think in some ways or another,
Mhm.
through our solution, we're trying to demonstrate that hey, this solution is here. It's easy to use. You can see that it works. And that's why we have the XPOS card as well, because we recognize that some markets they prefer to hold something physical rather than a mobile wallet. And I find that a
Mhm.
card is usually an easy way for people to get on the idea. And from the card, if they want to move on to a mobile wallet, they can do. They can pair the XPass card into the X wallet very easily and can use it vice versa as well. So that's what we want to do. When you hold the card with, let's say, yeah, with your digital currency on it, you know that hey, it is something real and tangible. You can actually spend it, right? And you can spend it in some of the markets where we have the XPOS already, right? So, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's I think everyone has to play a part to move this forward. Yeah, the market is still very early. Um, but I'm very optimistic about it moving.
Oh yeah, same here. It'll move eventually. I think it's really the barriers to entry, and with the U.S., there are a lot of barriers to entry, and like with the XPOS, for example, I know you guys with the XPOS, it has that merchant aspect with it, but it also has that exchange aspect where someone could come up with their XPass card and say they want to
Yes.
purchase some Bitcoin, right? So I'm sure that creates some interesting challenges for you guys in certain markets, and especially in the U.S. because there's different laws for businesses when you're exchanging something. in terms of crypto. I know there's a lot of businesses that have some issues with that. Is that a barrier that you guys have run into?
Yeah, so I think for the US, we are monitoring as well because, like you say, there are different regulations in different states as well. And whether do
Hmm.
you need those license, it really depends on the criteria. So I'm not really in tune of the requirements for bid license, but I think I read it somewhere that you need a minimum of transactions of $10,000 in order, then you need a bid license to operate, let's say in the New York State. But having said
Hmm.
that, different markets have different regulations. We do have inquiries from partners who really want to try and implement in other states as well. So we're working with them to see what kind of pilot and trials we can start running into. Um, but in terms of the focus, I think wherever there has demand, we're not ignoring. But we want to make sure that we are compliant as well, because in order for the business to sustain, in order to play the long term goal as well, we need to make sure that we are compliant with the regulation. We comply with whatever that the environment is required. If not, you find yourself quickly shut down, and that's not what we want to do. We have a pretty good compliance team, um, and we're really looking at, so for example, what are different licenses we need to adhere to or get in order to operate. So you realize that some markets we are a lot more active, while some you may not have hear anything from us, but it's not that we are not doing anything. It's just that we want to make sure we get all the proper the groundwork set up, the proper infrastructure set up, as well as to keep it going.
Right.
And to us, there's no point trying to shout about something before anything is getting done, right? So I think from what we do in terms of how we what we in terms of the culture we have as well, is looking at the XPOS, looking at XPhones. We believe in doing something and actually get it going before we share it publicly. But I can understand from a community perspective. Sometimes I think as per other projects, and it's fair. They want to see progress. They want to see updates. Um, but sometimes our hands are just tied. We can't really share until
Mhm.
we have something concrete to move. So it's always a balancing act as well, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I think community in general, and different communities within crypto, but I mean, in Pundi X, especially, the community gets really excited about all the cool stuff that you guys do. So, I mean, from regulatory perspective and certifications and licenses and doing everything right, taking your time, obviously that's the right move. And I'm super glad that that's what Pundi prioritizes, depending on the markets. But I mean, for the community in general, I think they understand that. I think they just are really excited
Yeah.
because when you come out with like a
Yeah.
blockchain phone, like that's something that's really surprising to a lot of people. Like, what? You can use your phone like normal, but it also has a
Yeah.
blockchain mode. You can send messages on the
Yeah.
blockchain. It works as a node, and you put it in your pocket. I mean, for a lot of people, it's
It is.
exciting stuff, and for all the nerdy people like me and all the techie people, we're like, what? When is that coming? Like, so yeah, we get excited about that stuff.
Yeah. So on the phone. So the phone, it is a pretty innovative, quite disruptive tech behind the phone, right? So the phone was developed because of the Function X ecosystem, and the Function X blockchain is part of the Function X ecosystem. So I'll give you a little bit of context why all this came about. Basically, the XPOS, if you look at it, right now is operating on Ethereum network. When a XPOS goes mass at scale across the world, let's say you have thousands and thousands of devices, and the Ethereum network is not going to be scalable enough to handle the volume, the number of transactions.
Mhm.
So we actually took a look initially, like what are the other potential solutions we can tap on. We can potentially put the XPOS on, And I think in our research, we realized that there isn't any platforms out there at that point in time when we look at it that is really suitable. They're either not scalable enough to handle the volume of transactions that we envision the XPOS to have in time to come,
Mhm.
or they are either too centralized, you know. So we decided, like, say, hey, if there isn't really a platform that fits what we are looking for, let's create our own then. And that's sort of one of the motivating one of our motivations in terms of why the FunctionX ecosystem uh, was created. And then when we did that, we were wondering what's the best way to showcase, because you always want to showcase and create a use case to show that, hey, this actually works, rather than it's a
Mhm.
white paper or is a theory. I think we believe in just doing it and then to show that, hey, it actually works, and then from there you finesse and you tweak and you update and improve, or you pivot, right? So when we created the FunctionX ecosystem, we thought that a phone, your own personal device, is the best way to access the ecosystem. I mean, these days everything you do, you have to do it through an app, through the phone.
Mhm.
Call for your cab, you pay for your bills, you look at information. It's mostly through the phone, right? So we thought that it'd be interesting to put the phone on the blockchain. And the XPhone itself is a pretty interesting device. So through the phone, we are showing an example where this is one example of how it looks like if you apply blockchain tech into telecommunications, right? So imagine if you can do that, what would happen if you apply blockchain tech into other different industries as well? That's powering by the FunctionX ecosystem. Yeah. So the phone itself is pretty interesting. So there's a lot of flexibility. So at the heart of it, so during the blockchain mode itself, anything you do, you call, you text, you can browse the decentralized or the blockchain internet as well. It doesn't require a centralized service provider. So when you make a phone call, for example, it doesn't go through the T-Mobile or AT&T network. What it does is it travels through the different nodes. So it's a node to node to node to node. And every time a call is made, the so-called route that it travel through node to node to node is different, is randomized. And you don't go through a centralized service provider. So that means that as a user or as an organization as well, you own your own data. No one is looking at the data. Your information isn't recorded on the blockchain as well. What you'll see is we do have like a sort of, like, you can call it like the FunctionX version of the Etherscan. You can see
Mhm.
so-called actions happening on the blockchain. So the actions are being registered on the blockchain so that you know that it happened. Let's say a call has been made, you know that the call has been is registered, but the content of the call itself is not recorded, because that's your data, and no one is purview to that information other than you and the person on the other line. So the team has managed to basically take the logic of payments of finance of on the blockchain and apply it to a phone call, and it works. When you pick up the phone, it sounds exactly the same. So when I demonstrate the prototype to anyone, when I show it to them, it is pretty fascinating because they can see for themselves that it actually works. So not just on a phone call, you can do a text as well. It's the same. So the team has managed to devise a way to use blockchain tech and put it into the form of a call or text. And through that, development as well, through calls, through text, the team has also created a different protocol. So in terms of the internet, so the current internet has been known as is using the HTTP protocol, right? We have created
Mhm.
something called the FXTP. So it is essentially a decentralized internet. So whatever information you put on there. So currently, of course, it's in testnet mode. There isn't any content on FXTP. It's just like how the internet first started, right? You need people to start building on FXTP. You need people to start uploading content as well. But as a prototype right now, what we can do is we are able to upload pictures onto FXTP. So when you take a picture, you can upload to FXTP, and the thing is, when you upload the picture and you can retrieve it as long as you know the name of the file, as long as you have the permission of the user. But basically, what happens is when you upload the picture to FXTP, the information, or rather the file, is being divided and spread across all the different nodes. So little bits of ones and zeros, or little bits of information of data, is actually being stored across the many different nodes. And only the user, which is either yourself or the one where you have given permission to, is able to encrypt it and pull it back together. So I think the closest example I can think of is, imagine a packet of powder, and you toss the powder across, let's say, the sea or somewhere else. You will see that the powder has broken out into many different specks, right? And that's your information, and that's
Mhm.
your photograph that you uploaded to FXTP. And then only you, with your correct set of keys, your correct permission, you're able to pull that packet of powder back together in one piece to form that picture or message you want to decipher. And it's pretty fascinating, because that means that, again, your data isn't being stored at the centralized server, isn't, let's say, being stored at, let's say, Amazon server, for example. Your information is actually stored across the different nodes. So again, you own your data. You control what you want to put up. You control how people want to see it as well. um, and basically, you take that notion, you can apply to decentralized apps as well. So you could create decentralized apps on the XPhone blockchain mode too. And what's different is basically, again, the information, whatever you share, is you hold it correctly. So as an example as well, we created a decentralized version of, we can call it Duber, right? A decentralized Uber, where
Mhm.
if you call for a cab, a taxi, what happens is, instead of your information going to the ride hailing company itself, your information goes to the blockchain. And the ride hailing companies, you can have Uber, Lyft, and other competing companies, uh, able to see that, hey, you have put up a request for a ride. They are able to compete fairly, accessing your data on the blockchain, because you have given permission, you have asked for a ride. They're able to compete fairly and for your services. So as a consumer, you'll benefit, because all of a sudden you're not just limited to one company. And from a company perspective as well, you kind of reduce the so-called monopolization, right? You're promoting fair play for all companies, where smaller companies right now have a fairer chance to compete, because uh, of how we have used blockchain tech to level up the playing field. So this is one example, and you can imagine you apply this logic across the many different services like Airbnb, social networks, and etc. etc. So it is very an interesting concept. It works. The prototype is there. If you're here right now, I can show you the different modes, and I think you probably caught a glimpse of it at CES this year as well. And of course, one thing to note is, we recognize not every user is going to jump straight into the blockchain mode, and that's fine. And that's why the operating system that we have developed to access the FunctionX ecosystem, we call it the FXOS, um, is actually built based on a modified Android 9.0. So what it means that it actually runs Android in parallel. So in order to access the Android mode, all you need to do is do a swipe left or swipe right. You can switch between the two modes, blockchain modes or Android modes. So whenever you want your regular apps, or your so-called decentralized apps, which you where all the services are there right now, you can just do a swipe, and you can access the mode. If you prefer a more private communication approach, you can swipe back to the blockchain mode and access the different decentralized app. You can access the calls, your text. So that's the flexibility we offer, and that's how we want to lower the barrier to entry. The XPhone itself, it is basically, in a way, you can call it a proof of concept to show that, hey, it works on a blockchain. And in terms of our plans for the XPhone, we actually are going to plan to build and produce just 5,000 of it, because we recognize that we are not a phone company. And our bigger goal is actually the FunctionX ecosystem, the FunctionX OS, the FXOS. They are all going to be open source. So what we hope to do is with the 5,000 X phone, it will be able to give and show the world that this solution works. And if any partners, any phone companies, any telcos who are looking to evolve their solution, who are looking to tap into a blockchain tech, they can use our open source OS to build their own version of the blockchain phone, and to give consumers a different option for a more secure way of communicating, for a more secure way of transactions as well. They can. So basically, we hope to see in the future there will be another OS that the consumer have access to, which is in addition to iOS, Android, you have now FXOS to consider, which will give you a more private way of communicating. Yeah. So basically, that's I guess that's the story of how we see Function X and X Phone, in particular for the X Phone as well. Um, but yeah, so that's how it is. As for Function X, like I said earlier, it's going to be a lot bigger and broader, partly because it's designed to be autonomous and open source. So we want to give basically the power of Function X to the world, so that once it's up and running, so once the mainnet is up and running as well, we want to welcome all developers to start building on it. We want to welcome organizations to create use case on it as well, to come build on the FunctionX blockchain. So that's the bigger goal of FunctionX. But of course, the X phone will be one of the first few ways for people, for developers to really see how, have a taste of the power of FunctionX ecosystem.
Yeah, it's a great use case. I think I watched a couple YouTube videos with Zach talking about it a little bit. I thought it was just the X phone at first as well, like a lot of people do. And then once he started talking about it and talked about Function X and FXTP, which is really interesting because FXTP is basically what
Mhm.
IPFS is. It's a
Yes,
decentralized protocol for the
yes.
web. So I
In,
mean,
Yeah,
you,
and it's interesting you mentioned about IPFS as well. So basically, the different components. So FunctionX ecosystem is made out of 5 components. Basically, we call it FX IPFS. So what we have done is we've taken IPFS, and modify it and put it into our stack. Right, the stack consists of the 5 components. So you have FX IPFS. You have the FX blockchain, you have the FXTP, which is the decentralized internet. You have the FX Docker as well, so that we make it easy for developer to access it. So basically, all these 5 different, and of course the FX OS as well. So all these 5 components made up the FunctionX ecosystem, and we believe this is something that is pretty unique out there right now, to mitigate the challenges we have so far on the blockchain platforms. Um, and of course, any devices that is using the FunctionX OS will become nodes powering the blockchain. So you can imagine all the XPOS eventually, all the X phones and all the other phones that are using the FX OS, they will become in some various degrees of nodes, providing services to the FunctionX ecosystem. And of course, depending on the hardware capabilities as well, the service that you provide to the FunctionX ecosystem will vary. Like for example, a phone won't be able to provide storage capabilities to FunctionX ecosystem, and that's fine. They'll still provide in some ways some services like supporting a call, also supporting some form of light task. Yeah. So what we have done, we have taken basically the best of the hardware and software and combined together to solve the issues and challenges, the limitations of blockchain, and try to push it forward. So it is a very disruptive tech. We're quite excited, and in fact, I think we are the only company right now that has managed to make a call on the blockchain. Yeah, if I can say it correctly, I think the other so-called blockchain phones, at the moment they are still probably in test mode. They haven't really demonstrated how phone goes through the blockchain, but we have, even though it's on testnet, but it works. I can give the phone to you right now. I can
Mhm.
make a call, and it works just as fine as a regular phone.
Right. I think I was listening to that, and I was having a conversation with someone a few weeks back about um, whether or not you can actually send a phone call through the blockchain. And we did a little bit more research, and assume how it works is that it records the action of the call on the blockchain, and that because the phone is a node itself, you're basically sending a peer-to-peer call over like VoIP over the internet from node to node, so it's just as secure. But I believe from what I've seen from what you guys put out that the actual phone call itself isn't on the blockchain. It's recorded
Um,
on the blockchain. Is that
okay,
correct?
I don't have enough details to go through that as well. Yeah, because the team right now they are still
Right.
working
That's
on
okay.
the certain integrity and certain things would change. Um, but basically, what it does is it has the added security of the how it works on the blockchain, where it doesn't go through a centralized service provider. Uh, but that's a really good question. I think it warrants a second conversation once the team has set up the thing in place to really explain the technicalities of it. And who knows, maybe it'd be useful for me to invite someone from my tech team to really explain how it works. Yeah, because what I understand is pretty fascinating, where the team is managed to break apart how current blockchain platforms are done, and to make changes to the current existing model and fit it into our stack in order for the Function X ecosystem to perform the way it is. Yeah. And from what I understand, it is not that easy. And that's why
Mhm.
actually you can see that no one has done that yet. Yeah. So I don't want to boast, but I think that's why I think we have a really unique piece of technology. But of course, we need more sort of use cases as well, and we need some other companies to come forward as well to really look at how they can leverage the OS. And that's why we started with 5,000 to really showcase the phone, the idea, the concept that it works, and let's see who else can we partner with to produce the next version of the blockchain phone.
Right, right. It sounds like with Function X and FXTP, obviously that's your guys' focus. But when you created the phone, I mean, you guys actually created something that's very, very technologically sound and is quite a breakthrough. Because there isn't an easy way to connect people with nodes via a phone outside of the centralized cellular network system and actually communicate. And I'm not talking about just messages, but I mean phone calls. So like there's like a lot of apps that I could download that encrypt my messages, encrypt my phone calls, but there's no way to do it peer to peer as a node. So what you guys created with the phone is actually really brilliant. Beside just the fact that it has Function X and FXTP, which is also incredibly brilliant. But the phone itself is very, very unique.
Because what we realize is there's an issue now where in order for a blockchain to be really considered a blockchain, I mean, you need to have certain amount of decentralization, right? You can't just have one or two nodes and you can call it a blockchain as well. So that's why I think we are in a lucky position to have the hardware as well as the software to mitigate some of the challenges as well, because through the number of nodes that's out there, it will only strengthen the network. So the more nodes you have, the more decentralized it gets, the better, the more stable it gets for the network as well. Yeah. So that's what we're gonna push.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're only gonna have 5,000
Mm-hmm.
of the X phone, correct? And then the XPOS will also become a node.
Um, the which one? Sorry. So we have the XPOS, we have the XPhone.
Right.
Um,
So the X phone works as a node for
yes.
function X.
Yep. And the XPOS, yes, the XPOS will be
Mhm.
ported over to the mainnet once the mainnet is ready.
Ah, okay, got it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
of course, from a user standpoint, um, I think as a common user standpoint, you won't really notice the difference because you're still going to work as easy as it is. Um, and as a user, basically, I think um, they don't really have to worry about that as well, right? It's kind of like right now in terms of what we do when we access the information online, we don't really say, "Hey, it's powered by Amazon server." Yeah, so that's the experience you want to go for as well. Ultimately,
Mhm.
when you want more secure mode of transactions or communications on the phone, just swipe to the blockchain mode. You can do it. Of course, the XPOS, when you port it over to the mainnet as well, from a user experience, it's going to be the same. It's still going to be elegant. It's still going to be smooth and easy to use.
So what country do I need to travel to get one of these 5,000 X phones?
We're gonna have a sort of a pre-order online later this year as well, and then we're just gonna ship online. I don't think you need to travel. Or you
Very
can come to
cool.
Singapore. Singapore is where our HQ is at. Where I'm based as well. Always happy to show you around, show you the expos. But yeah, in terms of how the X phone is gonna deliver, it's gonna be online. Uh, Likely. Details
Very
will
cool.
be released later this year once we get it out and running. And also, I think in terms of the videos you have seen so far, the X phone they have seen is really just a prototype. The actual
Mhm.
design, the newer design, could be seen on the our FunctionX website, functionx.io. So when you access the site, you can
Mhm.
see the more updated design. So there's a pretty cool uh, X on the back of the phone. There's actually an X button as well, which allows user to quickly access the dApps on the blockchain mode. So it's pretty cool. We're still in the midst of shaping and developing. But yeah, so really excited to get these phones out to the hands of more users.
Very cool. I'll keep my fingers crossed and see if I can get one at
Yeah,
some point. But oh my gosh, when I saw that prototype, it's so
yeah,
thick. It was like really cool everything you guys could do with it. But I was like, wow, it's almost like a brick. Like, how am I going to be able to fit that in my
yeah.
pocket?
So that's what we
This-
always stress to people when we demonstrate. This is a prototype, but you know what? That's funny. When we were at CES, I think a few
Mhm.
commented on the that thickness aspect. Like they say, are you going to change the design? Why is it like that? I mean, it's cool tech, but it's a little thick for comfort. And I mean, we explained this is not final design, this is a prototype. But when we were at Mobile World
Right.
Congress, we actually received a few comments saying, when we tell them this is a prototype, we're going to update. They say, you mean you're going to change the design, but they all that thick block slant edges at the side is really cool. I think this is what unique. So we have received different opinions from different markets. Um, but yeah, regardless, it is a prototype. The one that you see on the website is the newer design. It's going to look a lot sleeker anyway. And also it has the latest specs that were released on the website as well. So it's a pretty competitive set of specifications for the price. It's gonna be $599. Uh, as in the cost
Mhm.
of the phone.
But when it's online for the pre-sale or sale, is that available in the US or is that going to be available in select countries?
Um, we want to make it available to as many countries as possible as well. But given it's 5,000, I mean, I don't know who's gonna buy, right? I don't know who's gonna buy any of the. I mean, it's going online. You can't block online. It's gonna be available for anyone to purchase it. Um, Yeah,
Hmm.
so we're not gonna restrict any countries to not be able to buy. But whether if anyone could get their hands on it, I think that's a different question as well. So I think until we release the details, we probably can gauge the demand as well. Yeah, but as it stands right now, what we're gonna do is just gonna produce 5,000 to show as a proof of concept that it works. But who knows? I mean, let's see the demand once we are ready to put it up, and we'll be able to go from there.
Yeah, I think the market will help decide what you guys want to do. It seems pretty cool. And actually, I got it pulled up right now. It looks a
Yeah,
lot thinner. Not like super, super thin, but it's a
yeah, it
lot
is. And
thinner.
if you look at the specs wise, it's pretty. I mean, I think for the price that we have priced it, the specs are actually really good. In fact, I think on other
Mhm.
similar phones, you probably have to pay more as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's for an Android phone, it's about, 'cause I know I've been looking at switching from iPhone to
Yeah,
BlackBerry at some point. I think they just have a better, safer operating system, and it's a little bit
yeah,
more flexible. And Function X actually might be just as good too.
yeah.
So
Check it out.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see.
stay tuned, man.
But it, yeah, yeah. Price wise, it seems to be priced pretty good to be competitive too, and I'm sure it's going to sell very
Yeah,
quickly because a lot of
we
people
hope
seem pretty
so.
interested
We
in it.
hope so. Yeah. So yeah, so that's what the team has been doing. It's pretty working, pretty hard at work, and yeah, we have different teams. I think we have different teams on Function X and the XPOS, which is live.
Yeah, you guys are doing some awesome stuff, and the products that you have out are awesome. Can't wait to see what else you guys come out with. Definitely a big fan. Anything you'd like to discuss or announce or make known before we close out regarding Pundi or anything we talked about?
No, 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 really. I mean, I think this has been a it's a great conversation on a Friday morning. Even though it's a bit gloomy down
Yeah,
here right now. But yeah, I think we will continue to push forward on our product, on our XPOS, on Function X, and the XPhone as well. Uh, and we hope to be able to share more in time to come. But there are various different of use cases we are pushing. Some will take longer, obviously. But the team is we have a tremendous team. I think the work ethics is unbelievable, man. It's as you know, I mean, in a startup, there's never really a down day. But we have a great team where it's always 24/7 push push push. So if anyone has a question, I mean, feel free to reach out to us. I mean, we have a Telegram chat group as well. It's fairly active. And Brandon, I mean, let me know when you are in Singapore. Uh, Love to take you out for coffee and have a chat or show you around Singapore as well. We're known for a food paradise over there.
yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about Singapore. It's on my list of things to do. Hopefully, I can get out there maybe sometime late this summer or something. I'll have to
Yeah,
plan a trip. Yeah,
yeah.
would love to.
If not, if we are gonna be at CES next year again, maybe you can come by and visit us at our booth. Yeah, but I'll let you know once we confirm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. How long are you in New York for?
I'm gonna be here until next Saturday. Then I'm gonna head down to Sao Paulo to visit the team there and to see what else we can get going as well.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, if you're back in the States at all next time or back in New York, let me know because sometimes I go through there as well because I have friends there.
Perfect.
Um,
Perfect. Yeah.
yeah, but totally would love to meet up and talk sometime, grab some coffee and
Sure.
talk crypto and get nerdy.
Yeah. Okay, man. Yeah. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.